think that's something this summer's taught me, is just go out and have experiences and make the most of things while you can.
Obviously, I wouldn't recommend being absolutely stupid money and getting yourself into masses of debt. If you can find some money somewhere to do a thing, just do it.
Hello everyone, welcome to something a little bit different today. So we've done 5 festivals this summer, and we thought it was time that we kind of sat down now that everything's over and just go through a little bit of each one, what was good, what was bad, rating things on like the lineup and the organization of each one. Obviously some festivals, as we'll get to in a minute, we've got a lot to say about the organization of. Go through things like the vibe and the atmosphere. I'm joined today by Izzy, of course.
Hi.
So we'll just go through some the 5 festivals that we've done, and if you want to go and watch what we got up to at each of those festivals, then click subscribe down there somewhere. I think I'm pointing to the right corner, and go and watch the vlogs that we've done from this year. So first festival then that we went to this summer was Slam Dunk, and I know you've got a lot to say about it. So do you want to? What happened at Slam Dunk, Izzy?
What didn't happen at Slam Dunk? Every area of the festival you can think of, bar lineup, was just an absolute mess.
Yeah, the lineup, to be fair.
Yeah, the lineup was good, but everything else is just not it. I mean, we could go into everything that went wrong, but so many people have done that already. I think the main thing to talk about now is the statement that Slam Dunk have put out the other day.
Yeah, well, I mean, I did a video on that the other day. I think that should be up by now. So, like, just going through that report very quickly, do you think that would you go again next year based on what they've said in that report, or?
I would go again regardless. Like, I've kind of already forgiven Slam Dunk just because I've been there so many years already. I've had an amazing time every year apart from this year. I think Slam Dunk deserve a chance to kind of put it right. But if it is like this every year from now on, then the festival's not for me anymore. I won't be turning up.
Yeah, I do think that statement definitely, at least they've held their hands up and gone, do you know what? Yeah, the people had legitimate concerns, and it's on us to do better, because a lot of festivals could very easily have just gone, well, we did everything that we were supposed to. It's not our fault you didn't have a good time, you know. So I think by them acknowledging that they have done something wrong, or that there were things that needed changing, that shows a good sign for next year. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but one thing I do want to say about that statement is it's all very well them saying, yep, we put our hands up, we take accountability for what happened. But straight after they said that in the statement, they then just listed a bunch of reasons why it's supposedly not their fault. Like, it was the third parties we hired for catering. Oh, it was the local council that said we're allowed this many people. It's like, you can't take accountability and also blame everything on everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing a bit of research. Hopefully that video is already up by now. That goes like kind of breaks down the statement. And one of the things I found when I was researching it is that the security company on their website, it gives like a brief for this year's festival, and it says company name Slam Dunk Festival, you know, event Slam Dunk Festival North to that 2023, and then at the bottom it says capacity 28,000 people. Now in the Slam Dunk statement they said 30,000 people. So, like, I'm not saying that Slam Dunk lied. I'm not saying that they've tried to fiddle the numbers or anything. But if the security company and the festival have got different numbers, then that needs clarifying between those two parties, or
definitely.
before that can be addressed. Because it's all very well and good them saying, well, we catered for 30,000 people, but if the security thinks there's only 28,000 people there, then they haven't catered. Do you know what I mean? So,
and 2,000 makes a big difference.
Yeah,
that's a lot of extra people,
especially when it comes to things like toilets and getting through that layout. And I know they've gone through it in the statement. The layout, trying to get through that food vendor area, was dangerous, and they were very lucky that something bad didn't happen trying to get through that.
Yeah, people were being bottlenecked. They could have, people could have easily fallen over and got crushed in all of that.
Yeah,
because you got people traveling from one big stage to another through that tight little area, whilst all these people are queuing to get food. Anyone could have fallen to the ground and no one would even see them as they're being trampled over.
I mean, there was people trying to get through in like wheelchairs and stuff, and it's just,
Yeah,
how
and
is,
babies in prams.
yeah. So I mean, but there are some positives as well. Um, Mainly the lineup really for us was
The
fantastic.
lineup was incredible, especially Shikari. They kind of
Mm,
saved the festival for me. I mean, I've seen Shikari
yeah,
live about 50 times now. That's a lot of times.
mm,
And that Slam Dunk show was easily in my top five, potentially
yeah.
top three.
I think if it hadn't have been them headlining, I think I might have been tempted to just leave early because okay, I had a lot of fun watching Flogging Molly and Billy Talent, and we
Hmm.
saw Queen as well, didn't we? And she was great. But if it hadn't have been Shikari, like to finish off, and then obviously the Offspring as well, I think like 5 or 6 o'clock, I might have just gone. Do you know what? Let's just cut our losses and go.
Yeah.
You know.
Save you
Um,
queuing in the shuttle bus queue for 3 hours.
I completely forgot to mention that as well. Yes, so the shuttle bus queue. I mean, okay, fair enough. Like we stayed a bit after the Offspring, and we went to DJ Fresh, didn't we? And
Well, we went
chilled
to
a
DJ
bit.
Fresh specifically because Slam Dunk said stay at the DJ Fresh set if you want to
Mm.
kind of beat the queues. Everyone would have gone by the time DJ Fresh finishes.
Yeah, well, that's what we were
And then
thinking.
you
Was
turn up and it's still hours long.
and at like 90 minutes we waited in that queue,
Hmm.
and there wasn't even like a toilet in the actual queue bit. No disabled facilities, and bearing in mind like we were stood with Alana as well,
Hmm.
who's got Crohn's, and they were in a lot of pain. It's like it was, if you're going to make people queue for that long, like that's not the festival's fault necessarily that everyone wants to leave at the same time, but
But
put a
that's
toilet.
something they should anticipate. If
Yeah,
they know
yeah,
they're going to have 30,000 people there,
mm,
you're going to have to anticipate all of them leaving at once.
yeah. I mean, like just one or two toilets in the queue area
Mm,
would have been enough, you know.
yeah.
And then so we got back to Leeds city centre, and none of the rest of that night was the festival's fault, obviously. But you know, and you just had like a bad day, and then
Mm,
like you get back to the city centre and it's busy, and everyone's trying to get taxis back and stuff, and it was just a nightmare. But that came off the back of just like if the festival had been organised better, I think everyone would have been in a better mood.
yeah.
But you could just tell, even like when we were on the shuttle bus back, you could just tell that everyone was just so done. Just
Everyone, yeah.
yeah,
And
uh,
everyone I've spoken to that went to Slam Dunk, regardless if I saw them at the festival or not, regardless if I even knew them for the festival, I've
mm,
talked to people in pubs and stuff. They've mentioned they've gone to Slam Dunk. We both agreed it was awful.
yeah,
It's not an
yeah,
experience unique to a certain group. It's kind of almost everyone across the board. The only exceptions I'd say is people that kind of got special treatment due to being media or kind of well known in the alternative scene,
yeah.
or people that have got something to gain by, pretending that everything was fine.
Yeah, well, I think even people in the VIP section were saying there was only one food vendor in there,
Mm,
and you know that was completely sold out as well. So, I mean, I could see through the VIP one thing at one point through
yeah,
and the queue for that one food vendor was like round the entire VIP bit. So it wasn't just like it wasn't like because when we got back after that festival, I kind of felt like is it just me? Am I just having a moan because I didn't have a great time? And then I went online and I saw that yeah, it was like a universe.
everyone.
It was like a yeah, no, everyone has these same issues. You're not just moaning for the sake of it.
Hmm.
Um, and if people had a great time, then I'm not going to take anything away from anyone like that. But and people had a much worse time than we did. So there was a lot of car parking issues as well, wasn't there? Which obviously we didn't have to deal with. Um, but people being told to park in places and then
Yeah.
coming back at the end of the day to a £250 fine slapped on the windshield because the signs had been moved
Hmm.
and stuff like that. Like, okay, Slam Dunk can put out a thing and say, yeah, we're going to do better for next year. But, and I guess there's no way to know that until we go next year.
Yeah.
But there needs to be like more than just, oh, we're really sorry that we did it. I'd love if anyone's watching this that was in like did get a fine from the car park. Did anybody from the festival offer to cancel that or repay it for you? Because
Yeah.
that, you know, if people are still being forced to pay out money like that, then that is on the festival. That is still part of what they've done wrong, you know. So let's go through, like, let's score it then. Lineup wise, I think it's an 8 out of 10 lineup wise.
Are we doing out of 10?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably say an 8, maybe
Mm,
even a 9 for a day festival. That's, pretty good.
yeah. I mean, it was what, £100. So like I mean, we're paying 30, £40 to see Shikari anyway.
Yeah.
It's probably same with the Offspring, if not more. So it's value for money. The lineup was great. Organization, I've 1 out of 10.
Can we do minus numbers?
Well, the only reason I gave it a 1 is because, like, at least there was, like, you know, like that Blue Ridge Rock Festival at the minute. There's a bit of controversy about that, which is for a different video that we could be here for hours talking about what's happened there. But that really just wasn't organised at all. It was barely a festival. So at least Slam Dunk, like, had a festival site that was functional to a degree.
Yeah.
I've gone for 1. And then the vibe of the atmosphere, I've gone for a 6, just because it was like, you could tell people weren't happy, but it was kind of like a solidarity of misery.
Yeah, I think the day kind of started off as like maybe a 7. People they hadn't all the food use and the toilet situation hadn't sunk in yet. It was just turning up to the festival, and everyone was like, wow, there's a lot of people here.
Yeah.
As the day went on, I think people lost their will to be there. I think it might have even peaked at 3 at one point, 3 or 2. I think when Shikari came on, I think everyone was a lot happier then. I think everyone got kind of the misery out of their system and had a little boogie.
Yeah.
So to average it out, I'd probably say a 5.
Yeah, that's fair. So are we going again next year then?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
If anything, just to see how much of a shit show it
Yeah.
is again.
Nothing else. If nothing else, it'll be good content. Even if it all goes to pot again. So a few weeks after that, then we had a much different experience of a festival at Download.
It wasn't even a few weeks. It was within a week.
Was it?
I'm pretty sure. Didn't you have Slam Dunk and then a week later it was Download?
Oh, it was. Yeah, yeah. Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I was very poor after that month.
It was a lot of fun though.
Yeah.
Download, to be honest, like, I had a lot of fun at Download, but there were similar issues to Slam Dunk.
Not ones that I'd say we experienced, at least for the most part. But we got there at the crack of dawn. We got there before most people had even woken up for the day.
Yeah.
And we got let into the festival site. What was it? 8 in the morning, 10 in the morning, when it's not even supposed to open till 12.
Yeah, our entire campsite, we'd done, like, the Fat Frank's blow up bed run and the second beer run from the car and stuff. Like, everything, all the tents and the gazebo and everything was set up by like 11:30.
Yeah, I had a tinny in my hand, sat in my camp chair before half of our campsite had even turned up to the festival.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what was kind of annoying, is that, and not to blame the people that are themselves, but it was very much like, right, our camp is set up now, but because of the traffic issues at the other end of the site, it was like people were like dripping in. So it was like, you'd get a phone call, can you come and help me with my stuff? Yeah, no problem. Yeah. So you'd get them and come back to the site. An hour later, can you come and get me with my stuff? Yeah, okay. And it got to like 9 o'clock. And bearing in mind, we'd been there for what, 15 hours at that point. And people are like, can you come and help me with my gear? And in the end, I just said, no, I'm sorry. I just need to sit down because I've just wasted, not wasted is the wrong word, but
Well, I get it. You spent all of that day kind of helping other people get their stuff in, and it's not like you had the Thursday this year to chill out for the whole day and not have to deal with that.
Yeah.
You spent the first day setting up, and the next day music.
Yeah, I do think that was something, because obviously this was your first Download camping, wasn't it?
Yeah, because I've done a day at Download before, but this is first time camping.
Yeah, so like the Wednesday of Download is genuinely my favorite day of the year, because it's like, when you get camp set up and all your friends are there and stuff, and it's just like, for the rest of the Wednesday, there's nothing else to do apart from the fun that you make. And that's why we sit around and just play loads of drinking games and stuff like that, and our own fun. And it's genuinely the best day of the year. And the Thursday is kind of second to that because again, there's nothing to do. And I think as great as the lineup was and as great as having that extra day of music was, you need that time to just do nothing.
Yeah. I feel like Download could have done with maybe starting a day earlier on like the
Yeah,
Tuesday, just so you had that extra day to mess
yeah,
about, get drunk, not have to rush over to bands and stuff.
yeah. And even if that means putting the price of the ticket up by 20, 30 quid, I think a lot of people would have paid
I
that.
would have paid it, yeah.
But that's not to say that the stuff going on in the campsites was still great, like the doghouse and the side splitter stages. It like at parts it did feel a bit too busy, but not in
Mhm.
the way not in the way of Slam Dunk that was like
Nowhere near the level of Slam Dunk, no.
it just felt a bit too cramped in places, but there was still like areas that you could go and sit down in that was that was quite open and that.
Hmm.
Uh, another let's get the negatives out of the way first. The heat.
The heat, I mean, that's not Download's fault at all.
No, no,
But it really was the hottest weekend of the entire year.
yeah,
And there was no something that is Download's fault though, is there's not one bit of shade anywhere apart from the side splitter. They really could have just put anything in the arena, anything at all, to
yeah.
allow people to sit under. Like people were making do by leaning up against like poles and stuff just for that slither of shade.
You know, um, at one point, I walked past the water tap, and the security were like rationing out water, and I thought,
Hmm.
this is like that Woodstock documentary. Fortunately, never got anywhere near that bad.
Yeah.
Like that Woodstock thing where the security are having to like get, divvy out the water because there's not much left, and then you
Hmm.
see people like going on about the what's it Liquid Death, the water company,
Hmm.
like the can of water, and they were selling it in cans because they had the
Yeah,
contract.
like 2 or 3 quid a pop.
Yeah, but then obviously if it's in a can, you can't refill that,
Hmm.
so you just have to keep going back and buying more can. So there was no like free really. If you didn't have a bottle when you went into the arena, there was no free water in the arena,
Hmm.
which is it's illegal, really. You know,
Well, we went up to the bar because I was dying of thirst. I did not want
yeah.
to drink any more alcohol. Asked for water. They said, we don't have any. The best I can do is a cup of ice. So I took my cup of ice and had to wait 30, 40 minutes to be able to drink it.
Yeah, I mean that's that. Like the bar where we were, was it bar number three?
Hmm.
Like there was never any queues for that bar, so
Yeah.
we were fine in like drinking soft drinks and stuff like that. But if you wanted water, you had no chance. Uh,
Hmm.
the toilets as well. Like,
Oh, the toilets.
admittedly, we went to the toilets at the wrong times sometimes, but it was like it was just a free for all. And then getting into I don't know what the women's was like, but going into the men's was like a swamp.
Yeah. The women's toilets were full of men because the men's toilets were swampified. Like in
Yeah,
the arena, there was just a river of piss streaming through the men's toilets. And in the campsite, like the men's toilets have gone so filthy that the security like used the women's. So instead of running in for a quick wee, I had to wait kind of 20,
oh
30
God.
minutes for all these men to have their poo in the morning. Have my morning wee.
I mean, I never had any issues with the campsite toilets, the
Mhm.
ones by
Maybe
where
I
we.
just went at the wrong time, but yeah,
Yeah,
I had to wait behind all these men for, toilets designated for me.
the patriarchy strikes again.
I know. When will it end?
But so, like, the lineup itself was really like, I mean, obviously, I go to Download every year, and I will do regardless of the lineup. But the lineup this year was just incredible.
Yeah, I cannot fault the lineup whatsoever.
Yeah,
My only gripe about it, and again, not Download's fault, I missed Electric Callboy because I
mm,
had to go home. I was, completely wiped out from the weather. I'd had heat stroke the day before. I was dehydrated and I was tired. And poor Dan looked like a lobster.
that was it. By that fourth day, if it
Mm,
like I don't know if it was the weather, but I just didn't enjoy Slipknot, and I think part of that was it was partly them and partly me just being like, I don't I don't have the energy for this.
yeah.
I'd rather just sit down with a drink and get some food, and And you know, if it hadn't have been Electric Callboy, I don't think I'd have had any energy for a lot of things on that last day.
Yeah.
But again, that's not necessarily the festival's fault. But as you say, put some shade up or something, and that could change. You know.
That good, yeah.
But
And also,
see,
what part of the reason I went home early is because I didn't want to deal with, like, those 10-hour queues getting out. I mean, people have spent all day trying to get into the festival. I
yeah,
thought there's no way I'm doing that on the way home. I want to get in my bed. So
yeah.
I missed Electrical Boy, missed Slipknot, and I was tucked up in bed by about 10 o'clock.
I'm kind of jealous in a way because we stayed up all night.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll pack down in the middle of the night and leave, and then we got away from the site at like 6, 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
So we missed the traffic, but we were just both me and Andy were just absolutely knackered trying to get the stuff out of the site.
Hmm.
You know, but like line up, like seeing Metallica twice, um, it was just incredible. You
Yeah.
know, it's just, and like obviously you can tell from your background there, like they brought their own screens and stuff, and
Hmm.
it really felt like an event seeing them.
Yeah.
Uh,
Metallica are great. It's the first time I've ever seen them, and then I got to see
yeah,
them twice.
and then Bring Me the Horizon as well.
Yeah.
Arguably, arguably,
Smashed it out the park.
arguably the best band of the weekend.
Hmm.
You know, I was hearing people like in the campsite after their set and being like, or even after Metallica's second set on the Saturday and being like, Metallica are my favorite band, but Bring Me the Horizon were the best band of the weekend. It's like that's
Hmm.
incredible. You know,
Yeah.
we saw them in Malta last year, didn't we? And then saw them at Reading,
Hmm.
and the progress they've made even in the last 18 months is just
Yeah.
I'm so happy for them.
Yeah.
So lineup, I would say, is 10 out of 10. To be
Yeah,
honest,
I'd agree. Absolutely.
there's something for everyone every single day.
Hmm.
Okay, I would have preferred it to have been condensed into the 3 days, or as you said, like give us an extra day to do nothing. But the actual bands themselves were,
Hmm.
apart from Slipknot, I can't think of a band that I was disappointed by. But
Hmm.
again, maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Well, I can't
Um,
be disappointed by them if I didn't see them.
yeah,
So no faults in the lineup for me.
organization. I've gone for a 7 just because of like the issues with the traffic and the car parks and stuff like that. And I
Yeah.
know that we were quite fortunate with the like because we got there early and we got in quite handy. But a lot of people really, really had bad experiences on the other side of that site.
Mm.
Um, and then vibe, I've gone for an 8 because
Oh yeah, it was
ev-
good vibes.
everyone there was friendly, and you know we met a lot of new people there, and a lot of people came up to us, didn't they, and said they enjoyed the videos and stuff, which was really nice. Like that was the first time that's ever happened to us. Um,
Hmm.
I was like, yeah, just really lovely people. But that's why I go to Download every year. Will you go next year?
It depends because doing 3, 4, 5 festivals in a year is a lot of money.
Yeah,
And I got a lot of things to pay for. So
yeah.
if I do download, I have to miss out on something else.
Mm.
So I'll decide at a later date, I think.
When the lineup comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one then, you didn't actually come to this festival, but it's 2000 Trees.
Hmm. It's my first trees I've missed since 2018.
Yeah,
I've been
you,
every year.
you were missed. You were sorely missed. Um, but a lot happened over that weekend, and it was probably my favorite festival of the summer, to be honest, because you weren't there. Um,
I see
no,
where
but
I stand.
there was like we're going through, and I've been making notes about like positives and negatives of each one as we go. And there's honestly not a lot of negatives that I can think of for 2000 Trees. Not just this year, but even last year when we went as well.
Did they run out of soft drink this year?
No, everything was
They
fine.
did last year.
Yeah,
So
I think last year they
the
just
one
weren't.
fault they've improved on.
Yeah, I think like that's something that 2000 Trees do really well is that if something like that happens, they go right. Well, we're not going to do that again because we want to make it the best weekend possible.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, the on the only negative I've got really, which isn't really a negative, is there's no phone signal.
Hmm.
And in a way that's good because you're not constantly, scrolling. But then if you need to get in touch with someone, you've got no chance.
Every year I've been to trees, there's been a couple of friends that I've been trying to meet up with,
Yeah.
every year. I never see them because they live the other side of the country. I still
Mm.
haven't seen them in years, but we always say, yeah, we'll meet up at trees.
Yeah.
I never do because there's just no signal. I'll get all of the messages 4 days later as I'm leaving the festival.
Yeah. That's it. But that's probably the only downside.
Hmm.
Um, it's just kind of like, I mean, it is only a small site, so you could just like wander around and hope that you bump into people, but you shouldn't, you should be able to at least get in. Because if someone's in
Yeah.
trouble, if someone's like, I ended up in the medical tent this year
Hmm.
uh, with heat stroke because it was really, really warm.
Yeah.
And I was drinking plenty of water and stuff, I don't really know where it came from. And then
Probably
I
the
was on,
sun.
thanks. Uh, but I was on my own watching cancer bats, and I just felt myself kind of going a bit,
Mm.
and I thought I'll head back to camp. And as I was going back to camp, I bumped into Alana and Sam and Andy, and Alana just like looked at my eyes and just went, "Right, you go into the medical tent." And I was
Hmm.
like, "No, no, I'm fine, I'm fine." And Alana was just like, "No, you go in the medical tent now."
Yeah.
And massive shout out to the team at the medical tent because straight away they were just like, "Right, sit there, come on, we'll help you." Blah blah blah. Blood pressure, everything else. Tested me for something else just in case it was that. Um, because
Did they
apparently,
give you that really gross blackcurrant drink?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I got heat stroke at trees. They gave me that, and I was really struggling to drink it. I was taking like a sip every few minutes. Like, no, you got to take your medicine if you want to feel better. I'm like, but it tastes rank.
I think I was just like desperate to get out of there because Bullet for My Valentine were about to come on,
Hmm.
and I was just like, whatever's the quickest way for me to get out of this tent and get back to like enjoying myself. Um, Maybe that's not the most sensible idea, but it made sense at the time. But yeah, massive shout out to all the medical team there because it was just in and out in 20 minutes and
Yeah.
made sure okay, and then gave me that drink. I can't remember what it was, but they went, yeah, just put it in a plastic bottle and take it with you. You know,
I wish I
and
could have done that. I just miss.
yeah,
I can't even remember who it was I missed, but they made me sit there and finish it before I could go outside.
yeah. As always, such a great festival. The silent discos and um, like the lineup this year. I mean, I went last year. There was only like two bands that I actually wanted to see, wasn't there? And
Hmm.
then this year was just like apart from because I'd never really listened to soft play, but the other two headliners I was really looking forward to, and Bob Vylan, Skin Dreads, Cancer Bat, Electric Six were great as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so I line up, I'd say maybe an eight. I think soft play aren't my thing, but you know the rest,
Careful, they're a hometown band for me.
yeah. Well, I know you love them, but they just I had no desire to like leave camp, you know.
Hmm.
And it's a good job that I didn't because I ended up playing in TPD's Guitar Hero competition and winning uh,
Was this
by
under
default.
dubious circumstances?
Well, so yeah, they'd been playing. So Rob had been practicing all day, and I think they just bled the power bank dry that they brought, the generator, because they brought like an Xbox and a TV to the festival and a vinyl player and a speaker and stuff. And so I played my song and got the high score. And then Andy was having a go, and halfway through it, the screen went off and the Xbox went off, and then tried to get it all working again. And in the end, Rob gave up and was just like, "Well, I guess by default, then you've won." And the prize was a ticket for next year's festival. So I'm not going to complain about that. I'm going for free next year. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's all right for some.
I know.
It depends on my car. I can't go to trees unless I got a car because
because it's in the
That
middle.
festival is a nightmare to get to
Yeah,
unless you drive.
yeah,
That
which is
was,
a
I
good
mean, I
thing.
managed to get some money together to be able to go, but then the main reason I didn't go in the end is because I had no way to get down. Everyone else was able to, get a
Mm,
lift, but I didn't have that option. And there's no way I'm sitting on a coach for 18 hours with my
yeah,
tent and my sleeping bag and all of my stuff.
yeah. I mean, they do a shuttle bus from Cheltenham station, but even then, it's like if you've got all your stuff with you, and obviously there's no shop on site, so all your food and your
Mm,
drinks you take with you as well. Yeah, you do need like a big car to throw everything in. That
yeah.
is probably the only downside to trees is that because there's I don't want to say there's nothing on site because they've got like a little van there that sells crisps and stuff, but you go to things
And they
like
got
down.
the watermelon stand. That's
Oh
good.
yeah,
That
yeah.
fresh
Although
watermelon.
the price of watermelon last year was £1 and it's now £1.50.
Oh my God.
Plus
Cosy
the
lives.
inflation. Yeah, Cosy lives strikes again on 50p on a melon. But no, I think I'm just finding things to complain about just because it was so great, honestly, such a good
Yeah.
weekend that like yeah, it I honestly can't think of like anything that was really massive an issue.
Mhm.
So like lineup, I've gone for an 8, organization a 9, and vibe as always 10 out of 10. Cannot
Yeah.
fault it.
Trees vibes are spot on.
Yeah,
I mean, the
which
lineup wasn't for me this year. There's like maybe a handful of bands that I would have seen and
mm,
enjoyed, but there's no one, from start to beginning I could have had a good sing song along to.
yeah,
But I just know if I got, I'd still have an amazing time. Everyone
that's
there's
it.
so nice and it's really laid back. It's just a good
Yeah,
festival.
but I do think summer kind of peaked there.
Hmm.
That's not to say any of the other festivals were bad. But spoiler alert, that was my favorite festival. So, but then after that was Bloodstock,
Yep.
as you can see behind me, and we were quite fortunate that we got invited to go as media accreditation, which is an incredible honor. Um, and I want to thank the team at Bloodstock for having us, because it was an absolutely incredible weekend. Very similar to the vibe at Trees, like you were just saying then about the campsite vibes and the atmosphere. I think
Hmm.
even though it's like a different kind of because it's still within the alt rock metal scene, it's more like you know, your heavier stuff. Um, but the people that go are still everyone's so friendly and there's a lot of families there and stuff like that. It's really really nice vibe. Uh, there wasn't really anything wrong with the festival itself, but I think next year it'd be nice to go with a bigger group.
Yeah.
You that's
I'd love
nothing.
to go next year. The lineup looks great.
Yeah, Architects, Malevolence, Flogging
Oh, I
Molly.
love Malev. Yeah.
Nothing against Johnny. Like me and him both had a great time, but it was kind of like yourself. Like anything's better with a group when you go away
Mhm.
somewhere like that. Because if one of you's not feeling it, if one of you's tired or hungover, it's like you don't really want to put pressure on the other person to go and have fun and do things and go and see bands and stuff. But
Mhm.
the bin jousting, I'd heard stories about the bin jousting, and it's dangerous, but it's everyone's having a good time, and
It sounds like a lot of fun. I would love to do binge jousting.
because it's just like you'd be great at it because you're just so feral. Because it's just like two groups of people. One person gets on top of each bin, and then it's just a big big thing on the pathway in the camp, and two groups of people just shove the bins to get together. And these are like big, heavy industrial bins, like
Hmm.
the big wheelie bin things. And it's just the two slam together, and then the two people on top wrestle, and whoever falls off first loses. And I think you'd be great at that because everyone would underestimate you,
Yeah.
and you just yeah. I think we put your name forward for it next year. And
I did
the
a beer can jousting at trees once. You tape a load of beer cans together and then you piggyback on someone's back and you've got to knock the other person off that person's back.
yeah, I think it's a similar. I think they used to actually do that with cans at Bloodstock, but for whatever
Hmm.
reason they didn't do it this year. But they had like inflatable things as well. It was like sumo wrestling, and
Yeah.
like when you're on the bungee thing and you've got to try and yeah. So there was loads of stuff going on in the campsite as well as the music. But again, people just like bit like binge jousting obviously isn't an official event. It's just the communities come together and decided that this is what we want to do. And when the security took the bins away, then it was like, what else can we do? Oh, I know, pillow fights. Who's got a spare pillow? You know, and then it turned into like, like as you see in the vlog, the March of the Hypnotoad, which is just this like group of about 300 people were marching around the site, following this flag of the Hypnotoad, chanting "We want our bins back" because they just wanted to do more bin jousting. It was just such a great atmosphere,
Yeah.
and I think like this was my first Bloodstock, and I think the only reason I've never been before is because it's always been a toss up between is it going to be that or download, like cost wise.
Yeah.
And I think having experienced both, like they are both great in different ways, but it's like there's so much more like strange behavior of Bloodstock, just more wine and just it's just so much fun, Not that you don't get that at download, but at Bloodstock
I
it's just
suppose
kind of
it's more contained in a smaller area at Bloodstock.
yeah, yeah. That is the other thing as well. It's like at download there was such a big walk to and from the arena, whereas Bloodstock it's like, oh, you want to watch the band that's on before the headliner, and then you go back to you can go back to your camp, get some food, and come back just in time for the headliner. It's everything's nice and close together. It's a very similar size to 2000 Trees.
Yeah.
Just a bit more. The music's all a lot heavier. But yeah, next year Architects is going to be incredible, and they deserve it as well. First
Oh,
ever,
they do, yeah.
first ever UK headline festival show, is it? Yeah. But the lineup this year: Meshuggah, Killswitch Engage, Megadeth, and we were in the VIP bit obviously because we went with the media thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like you turn around and there's what's his name from Knocked Loose, and then I go to the toilet and I'm stood there pissing next to Danny Filth from Cradle of Filth, and just this surreal experience.
Yeah.
But then the next day, everyone sat there in the shade watching Tenacious D and Spinal Tap in the cinema bit. So lineup, I reckon it's a 7.
Yeah.
Just because, like some of the smaller bands aren't really my thing. And they've got the New Blood stage as well, which is like unsigned bands, and I think every festival should do that because that's a great way of like finding the next generation of artists to play that festival. Lineup 7, organization 9, can't fault it at all. The only thing, again, it's not really a complaint, is that we had to go from where we were parked, we had to go to literally the opposite end of the site to get our media accreditation pass, with all the then come all the way back to the site to then go into the camping bit. But that's the first world problem. That's not really an issue. And the vibe, of course, 9, just so much fun. And then the final festival was.
I just want to say one more thing about Bloodstock, actually. I know I didn't go, but I think it's interesting. I've noticed over the past couple of years, they seem to branch out into other genres of metal. Like, the festival has always been a bit intimidating to me before, not because of like, the music or anything, but it just kind of gave me the impression it's for people that are really into their traditional metal music, those bands that have been around since the 80s. But Bloodstock really seems to have experimented with other stuff now. You've had quite a bit of metalcore and hardcore and all sorts come in. So yeah, I really want to go and check it out because it seems to be more my kind of thing these days.
Yeah, like on the surface, I suppose it does seem a bit. I don't want to say gatekeepy, but I know what you mean. Like, like people being like there for like the older bands and stuff.
Yeah, it felt, I'm not saying this is the case, but it felt like it was a festival for people that thought download had become too mainstream.
Yeah. And admittedly, I used to think that as well. And then
Yeah.
having gone and seeing like the actual, reality of it, that's far from the case. People are just
Mhm.
happy to, and you see people dressed up as like a lot of people were dressed up as Barbie.
Yeah.
Just everyone's there just to have fun, and it's not really about. It is about the music, but it's not really about like gatekeeping the music. And I always
Yeah.
thought there was like an elitist culture there almost, but no, that's just completely a myth. I don't know where that came from, to be honest.
I think it's just making assumptions. Like I'm fully aware that I'm
Yeah,
just assuming. But now that I've seen bands that I really like kind of start to appear on Bloodstock's lineup, I want to check it out and, form a real opinion about the festival.
yeah. Oh, one last thing I will say about Bloodstock. When you come next year with us, uh,
When?
oh yeah, not if, when, you've got to get the cider jug, the
hmm
four pints of cider
Oh
for
God.
£24.
Am I gonna
Um,
have heart palpitations from all the sugar?
yeah, yeah, but it's like 8.5% strong,
hmm Oh
and it
God.
comes in a because it's because we saw the sign at the edge of the bar, and it says 4 pint bar, and we thought that just meant like there's 4 pints already like put in a tray, and you just buy
Yeah.
the four, you take the tray already away. And then we got in the queue, and some guy was like, "Oh no, it comes in like a milk jug," and I was like, "What?" Like, yeah. So like I like he like saved our spot in the queue, and I went up to the front to see what it was, and it was just cider. There was no like ales or anything.
hmm
It's just four pints of cider, but it's all like local and smaller breweries and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, and so we got. I don't even know what I asked for, but the guy behind us in the queue went, "Well, you want to get that one because it tastes really nice." And then we ordered it, and he went, "Oh yeah, by the way, good luck. That's 8.5%." And I was just like,
Oh,
I am gonna die."
how did you feel after it?
Well, we had to go back to camp and have a bit of a sit down before my sugar because me and Johnny were both, and you could probably tell in the video, like we were
Mhm.
watching Knock Loose, and we were both just like going a bit loopy, and we
Yeah.
just if we carry on, we're not going to enjoy my sugar as much as we should do. So maybe we should go and sit down for a bit and get some food.
Mhm.
Yeah, but so then on to the last festival of the summer, Leeds Fest,
Leeds was,
eventful
silly and chaotic, but all in all the best ways. Well,
because it was a
most of the best ways.
it was a bit of a last minute thing for us, wasn't it?
Oh, especially for me, I bought my ticket on the Saturday and went on the Sunday.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, I only got my ticket about 2 or 3 days before that,
Yeah.
uh, and I'm surprised really that there were still tickets available because normally, like when we got tickets for Reading last year, that sold out on the day, didn't it?
I would say it's because the lineup this year, in my opinion,
Mm.
as an alternative music fan, it was a lot weaker than previous years at Reading and Leeds.
Mm. And like you could see that as we walked through the campsite, you could see that we could have taken tents on that last day and still been able to like get a spot,
Mm,
you know. And I'm not saying that any like I would have liked to have seen Billie Eilish and a few other artists like across the weekend, but yeah, the lineup wise, it was a little bit. There was something missing.
lackluster.
Yeah, yeah. But we had fun on the Sunday anyway.
Oh yeah, because it was good company. We just messed about that festival. It was a lot. We made our own fun.
Yeah, I
And
think that was
Leeds
part of it.
Festival and Reading Festival, once you're in the arenas, they're basically a playground just to,
Yeah,
do whatever you want.
and I almost didn't care like how much the drinks were. Like we went to that Four Loco bar, didn't we?
hmm
And we saw that a can of Four Loco was like a tenner. Now normally I'd just turn around and go, oh, how are you charging that much? But
hmm
when you're there, you're at a festival, and you just think, yeah, we're here to have fun. You know, everything else about that day was fun until the end of the day. Everything else about that day was fun, and we'll come to that in a
Yeah.
minute. Um, Even some of the artists that like I'd never really listened to before, just like
Oh, we
stood at the back.
discovered some new people. Like,
Yeah,
they obviously were really popular artists. Like there's certain songs, just everyone whipped out their phones and started recording. But I'm
Yeah.
not on TikTok or anything, so I assume this is how most of these people have discovered these bands.
Yeah.
So I had no idea who they were, but I was having a good time and vibed along to some of the
Mm.
the stuff I heard, and I'll
Yeah.
probably go and check them out on Spotify.
Yeah. But then obviously the big ones that we were there for.
Hmm.
Well, let's talk about the controversial band first. So Lewis Capaldi pulled out due to health reasons, didn't he?
Yeah.
And based by the 1975, who I have a bit of a rocky relationship with, uh, mostly just to piss Jamie off, to be honest. It's the work, but no, I actually really enjoyed their set. I thought they put on a really good show. Um,
I enjoyed it as well. I mean, I enjoy 1975 enough. I'd never go buy a ticket to one of their shows.
yeah,
Um, it's not the kind of thing I'd want to spend my hard-earned money on. But if I'm at a festival and they're there, I'll go see them as long as I don't
yeah,
clash with anyone. There's a few songs I genuinely like. I
yeah.
remember being obsessed when their first album came out, but I've kind of moved on a bit from it now. But
Mm,
I think that's why this set a couple of weeks ago worked because it was their first album in full. It was kind of a bit of a
yeah,
nostalgia and a nice little sing song.
yeah. And like me, you and Chloe had loads of fun. Just kind of
Oh yeah,
like
because
we
we
all,
lost Jamie.
yeah, yeah.
Man darted off to be at the front of the crowd, even
Well,
though they
that's it.
went on for another hour and a half.
He was going to me. He was going to me. Can we go down now? And I'm like, Jamie, they're not on for another 90 minutes. Yeah, but I want to go and get a spot. It's like, how, how long do you think you need to be stood there for before you can get it? And so like we went to the bar, didn't we? And you and Chloe
We
went
went
on
to the
some of the
bar,
ride stuff.
we
And
went all right, and we
uh,
still got in the golden circle.
yeah, we actually weren't that far away from where Jamie was based on
No.
the photos he showed me. But that allowed us also to like get out before the big rush when they finished, because then we went to see
Mhm.
Sleep Token,
Yeah. Oh,
which
they were
was
good.
an experience. Just
Sleep
like,
Token were absolutely amazing. The
mm,
crowd kind of sucked, but I expected that from Leeds Fest. It's a very
yeah, it's not really their scene.
yeah, I was surprised of all the festivals Sleep Token could have done this year, they
Mm.
did Reading and Leeds.
I
They
think,
pulled a good crowd, but that's because they've kind of hit the mainstream. But it also
yeah,
means the people that turned up didn't want to dance or mosh or anything. They just wanted to stand still and, record
they were
the
there.
occasional song they knew.
Yeah, they were there to film the summonings for TikTok views.
Yeah.
That
Like
because
I tried to find a pit for the summoning, and
yeah,
as I was making my way through to the front of the crowd, people were just shoving me and smacking me with their elbows because they didn't want me to get forwards. And I
yeah,
wasn't there to push in. I wanted to go find a pit, and there wasn't
yeah.
one.
But it was like for the first time seeing them, they were incredible. I suppose if you go and see them at their own show, then there's more of like a stage production to it as well.
Yeah.
Because I think weren't they on the lineup before? Because they only blew up really at the start of this year, didn't they? When those
They've
singles,
been quite big in the alternative scene for a couple of years now. I mean, I know
yeah,
they
but then
won
they
a
blew up on,
HMA for best album, I think, with their
yeah,
previous one.
but then they blew up on TikTok like the start of this year, didn't they? With
Yeah.
some of
I
those
think
singles,
2nd of January is when they released it because I remember
yeah,
they just kept releasing songs in January and they blew up that month.
yeah. So I think like they were already booked for that slot before that, and obviously there's no way for the festival to predict that that's how big they were going to become.
Yeah.
So as well, but like you said it at download, didn't you, when we were looking at the Leeds poster there, and you're
Mhm.
like, Sleep Token are relevant now, and the guy on after them hasn't been relevant for like 10 years. So
Yeah.
if the whole festival's selling itself on, we've got the most relevant lineup or whatever, why not?
Mhm.
Why not switch something up? You know. But they were great, and then the
Mhm.
Killers to finish off, which
I thought the Killers were fine. It's a bucket list band crossed off, but I won't go raving about it to friends. But
yeah,
maybe that's just because I'm kind of over the Killers before I've even seen them live. I've heard like their first album
mm,
over and over so many times. My own fault. I used to play it all the time as a kid. And there was a nice like nostalgic value seeing them, but for the most part, it was just kind of like, yeah, they're fine. It's the Killers.
Yeah.
That's cool.
But you know what I'm like. Anytime Mr. Brightside comes on, I
You're the ultimate white guy when it turns into.
I feel just basic white person. Yeah. But there's just something about that song, and especially in front of like 80,000 people at a festival. There's
Yeah.
just, I think because it holds the record for being the longest consecutive charting song in the UK.
Hmm.
I think it's like something. I think it's like 10 years it stayed in the charts for, or something stupid like that.
Yeah. It is a banger, but I'm
Yeah,
sick of it.
yeah. I couldn't go again. Same with the 1975. I don't think I'd buy tickets to go and see the Killers on tour.
Yeah.
But if they're at a festival where you know that you're going to get loads of other artists as well,
Hmm.
then definitely worth it. The only one of the issues I will have before we get on to like the big problem is that they closed the bar by the main stage,
Hmm.
and you think there's like thousands of people there. And I went over to the bar, and the barrier was like pulled across, and there was a big group of people there saying, "Well, we want to buy a drink. You want, And the fella at the bar went, "We have to try one at the other end of the arena." And you thought, why should we have to leave where we are right now, watching the headliner, to go all the way to the other end of the
Yeah.
bar? It's like, do you not want to make money? If people are willing to spend their money watching the last band
Yeah,
of the week,
to let them.
yeah, if I
If
want
they
to,
want to spend 10 quid on a pint,
yeah,
let them.
if I want to waste my money buying something from you, then stay open. But yeah, I mean, we'd had a great day up to that point, so I was kind of like, I can hang on for half an hour and get another drink when we walk back up. But yeah, just again, me trying to find things to moan about.
I want to mention the food situation at least. Like, there's nothing wrong with the queues or anything. Like, pretty much
Mm,
everywhere we got straight up. It's the fact that one, the food was expensive, which you expect from a festival, but two, you did not get enough food. Like, you had to spend 20 or 30 quid just to fill
yeah.
full up. And because you're walking around so much, you burn that off and you get hungry again. Like,
Mm,
I had this problem at Reading last year as well. Every kind of lunchtime, you end up spending about 20 quid just to,
yeah.
not feel starving.
Yeah. And as you say, like, festival prices are what they are. That's fair enough. But it feels like there's an extra premium when you go to Reading and Leeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'd like to. It'd be interesting to sit down and like look at menus and prices of things at different festivals. But it definitely feels like you end up spending more when you go to Reading and Leeds, but not really. You don't really get much more for your money.
Yeah, I'd say the price of the food is about the same as every other festival, but I
Mm,
swear they give you less. I'm always
yeah.
ravenous at Reading and Leeds.
Mm. But thank God for the co-op, because
Oh God, yeah.
when we came out of that arena, you know, just being able to grab like a sausage roll and a couple of pints from the shop, it's just okay. It's more expensive than like a normal supermarket, but it's a lot cheaper than going to like a burger van and getting a handful of cold chips.
Yeah. Well, the only thing that filled me up, like actually made me feel full that entire day, was a bag of £3 packet of crisps from Co-op. I'd spend 10 quid at a food truck and feel starving afterwards, but
Yeah,
Co-op sorted me right out.
yeah. I know. I get why like smaller festivals can't do that, but like having the co-op at festivals is an absolute godsend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. So we've put it off a little bit, but should we get to what went wrong at Leeds Fest then?
I'm still recovering from my blisters.
Yeah. So for context, what happened was we decided to stay around, didn't we, after the Killers,
Mhm.
uh, get some food in the arena and went on the dodgems and stuff.
Yeah.
The idea being, we'll wait for the queues to die down, and we'll wait for anyone who's getting a taxi and leaving the site. Will save waiting in a queue. We'd rather wait having a drink from the co-op than wait in the queue where you can't get food or anything. That was our logic, and it backfired.
Hmm. Big
Uh,
time.
but I don't know who's to blame for that, because it's very easy to blame the festival for that. But when we're like getting in touch with Uber, and you can literally see the Uber drivers on the other side of the fence turning down jobs. Like there's nothing the festival can do about that. Do you know what I mean? Um, so we waited there for about what 2 hours maybe,
Yeah.
and it was absolutely freezing. We asked the people in the queue for the normal taxis how long they'd been waiting, and the guy was like, "We've been here for about an hour and a half, and we're not even halfway through the queue yet." And we just thought, the only other option would be to walk back into the site, walk all the way through to the other end of the site, and get the shuttle bus back.
And then get a taxi in from Leeds anyway.
Yeah. It was. I mean, what time did we get in? About 4:45.
Yeah, it was late.
And we left. Well, I mean, the Killers finished at 11. So
it's like 5 hours.
Yeah.
Granted, an hour of that was spent messing about, trying to wait for queues to go down. We had fun, went on the dodgems and stuff, but a solid 4 and a bit hours was spent just trying to get home.
Yeah, and I know. And
I don't even live that far away.
Yeah.
That's what's most annoying about it.
Yeah. I know Jamie was really annoyed, but he's on footage. He's in the video saying the North is better. So it doesn't matter what he says. That's on record now. He can't live that down. Even though he, like, very rightly, he was very annoyed by the taxi situation. But again, that's not really on the festival. If the Uber drivers are cancelling jobs, that's, the company needs to say something to them, or this is getting into like a whole other discussion now. But like Uber drivers that cancel jobs for no other reason than just, well, I don't want to do that job because it's not going in the direction I want to go. To. Like,
they wanted a quick drive to Leeds so they could drive back and take another job.
Yeah.
Which I don't blame them for, but you kind of, in a way, you've got a duty to get these people home.
Yeah.
If you're turning up to this festival to drive people, then you have to accept that these are all people that need to get home.
Yeah. Yeah. But the shuttle bus, we literally, there was no queue, was that we jumped on, and 5 minutes later we were heading back to the city centre. And we got on for free because they just weren't checking tickets. But yeah, well, I think it was 3 a.m, and they just kind of wanted to get everybody home safely.
Yeah.
They didn't really
get them out of that festival.
Yeah, but no. So like, I had a great time. Obviously, the end of that night spoiled it a little bit, but I wouldn't say that ruined my entire day.
It didn't ruin the festival for me. Like, we had a similar experience getting home from Slam Dunk, but because the rest of the day was awful, it was just another thing to make us miserable. But once we got home, we'd slept, and we woke up the next day, we could rationalize that, the end of Leeds getting home was bad, but the rest of the festival was a laugh.
Yeah. I mean, like lineup wise, to rank it, then I almost want to give it 2 different rankings, because if you look at it as the whole weekend, then I'd say maybe a 5. But the day that we went, I'd say maybe a 7, because it was, I enjoyed every artist that we saw.
That's very generous. I mean, I'd probably give that ranking if I take into account the new bands I discovered. But if I just looked at the poster before going to the festival, I think I'd give it a much lower score. I was not impressed by the overall lineup across the weekend.
Yeah, I think, across the weekend, I mean, you've got bands like Don Broco, obviously we love them, and Billie Eilish, I'd like to see. I don't think there was anybody on the Saturday that I was remotely bothered about, not Sam Fender or Foles or.
I quite like Foles.
Yeah,
that's the thing. There's bands that I quite like. It's not bands I love.
Mind you, though, we did so that the Saturday on the Festival Republic stage, there was that run, wasn't there, that we looked at, and it was like Knocked Loose, Yonica, Normandy, somebody else.
Yeah, that's a good run. I like those a lot.
Yeah, but again, like, if you're paying £100, those bands are only getting a half-hour set, so you're not really getting your money's worth if you're only going for those smaller bands. You need the headliners at the end of the day to make it worth it. And I think we got that from the 1975 Sleep Token and the Killers at the end of the day. That to me was worth the price alone.
Hmm.
Yeah. Organization. Apart from the end of the day, the organization was spot on.
Yeah,
Yeah. So again, I've gone for a 7 there just because
I'd
it
agree.
was it was such and again, it didn't affect my overall, you know, view of the day, but it was such a pain to get back that
Hmm.
it does lose some points. And then the vibe, I've gone for a 7 as well. Just it wasn't special, but it wasn't there was nothing wrong with it, you know.
It was unusual. Like there wasn't anything wrong with it by any means, but Reading
Mm,
and Leeds, especially the older you get, the more you feel this. But it's kind of you're there, and then there's other people there. Like there aren't ever going to be people you interact with in any
yeah,
meaningful way.
yeah.
It's just people that are at the same place as you.
It's not like a Bloodstock or a Download or a Trees where like you do get talking to people and yeah. But I think because I've never camped at Leeds, and I think I would like to, obviously depending on next year's lineup, I'd like to camp there at least once just to say that I've done it.
Hmm.
Because we camped at Reading, didn't we? And
I do worry I'm going to feel really out of place though. Like I already felt it at Reading last year when we
mm,
camped. It might be better with a big group because then we've got our own little community. But if there's
yeah,
like three or four of us, I think it'd feel quite awkward.
mm. I mean, I'm 31, so I'm getting to the point where I'm like, am I aging out of this festival? But then,
Yeah.
like the Killers aren't like a young band. The Killers are like,
No.
I don't want to say my generation because that makes me sound really, really old. But like they were big when I was in sixth form and stuff. So like that is kind of catered towards my age group. People who are like in the 30s now. So depending on next year's lineup, if it's another band like that, say if it's like I don't know, like a Kasabian or someone, then maybe. But if it's like a TikTok person that I've never heard of, then maybe not. You know.
Mhm.
But I don't want it to be getting to like my mid to late 30s and I'm still camping at Leeds Fest.
Yeah.
That, yeah. So would you go again, or is it just dependent on lineup?
I would like to camp at Leeds just to say I've done it, but I don't know if I ever will. But I'd
Yeah,
definitely go to like a day if like the lineup's spot on, or if everyone else is going and I feel left out, as happened this
yeah.
year. I will never financially recover from that bank holiday, but I'm glad I did it.
So overall, then, out of those, obviously you only went to 3 of those 5 that we've spoken about.
Yeah,
But what was your? Let's go bottom to top. Then what was your least favorite?
slam dunk.
Yeah, definitely. Uh,
There's
for
no
me,
no question about it. They're
yeah,
easily the bottom.
yeah. I think that's a given based on everything that we've spoken about. It really does need some improving next year,
Yeah.
and we'll just. But like as you said before, if we don't go next year, then we can't see how they've improved it. So,
Hmm.
and then next for me would be Leeds.
I agree. But it
Mm,
is weirdly close between Leeds and Download for me. Obviously, I'm not including Trees and Bloodstock, so I didn't
yeah,
go. I think the vibes are so much better at Download, and there's way more to do. So I'd choose that festival over Leeds anytime if I could
yeah,
repeat one of those experiences. But the amount of fun we had condensed into that one day of Leeds Festival,
yeah,
I probably had more fun on that one day at Leeds than any individual day at Download.
yeah, yeah.
But overall, the experience is more fun at
Do
Download.
you think do you think that's because there was like because we were only there for a day and you knew you were going back to your own bed that night?
Yeah, I could go back to my own bed. I woke up refreshed. We didn't get there till like the afternoon, so we'd had a
Yeah,
bit of a lie-in and stuff.
yeah,
Um, at the end of every day at Download, I kind of fell asleep without meaning to. Everyone would go
mm,
out to the tents and to go drinking and stuff, and I'd be asleep by like 11.
yeah, yeah. Because it just and that walk back from the arena, it does take all your energy, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
Download was a very tiring festival, whereas Leeds, I had energy right up until we tried to get home.
yeah, yeah. And then for me, obviously you didn't go, but it's very close for me between Bloodstock and Download.
Hmm.
Uh, for different reasons. But I think and obviously this is, because Download's much bigger, but the lineup really, like Metallica twice, Bring Me the Horizon, Disturbed, Alter Bridge, Parkway Drive, Electric Callboy, Architects, Pendulum. See, we didn't even speak about Pendulum and Architects.
We
Like
didn't.
that run,
Nearly killed
Pendulum,
me off.
Pendulum Architects for me is one of the best runs I've ever had at a festival.
I think the only run that compares, and it's quite a similar run actually, but at Reading, when we had Poppy into Shikari,
Shikara,
into Pendulum,
yeah,
into Bring Me.
yeah, and then
That was
Arctic,
good.
Arctic Monkeys were a bit of a disappointment, but on paper that lineup is perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the lineup just puts Download slightly ahead of Bloodstock, but I'd love you to experience the campsite atmosphere of Bloodstock. I think you'd
Sounds
absolutely,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then for me, best festival of the summer is 2000 Trees. Just because it just everything about it felt so homely and just really, really community based, and
Yeah.
you laugh with people, and we made friends with people while we were there and stuff, and just such a great place to go. Yeah, but I hope it doesn't get any bigger than it does, if that makes sense. Like I don't want it to.
It's a weird like paradox in it, because you want your festival to do well, but you also don't want it to change.
Yeah, yeah. I think where they are now is like, is it 15,000? I think that's like a good place for them to stay at. And okay, like they might bring in some bigger bands, but I hope that doesn't mean that they go up to like 20, 25, 30,000, because I think then, especially for the silent discos and stuff, you lose that kind of intimacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, absolutely no faults with 2000 Trees whatsoever. Anything else you want to mention before we wrap it up?
No, that is everything. We've had a good ride. We've celebrated the good bits of these festivals, and I felt sufficiently sad about missing out on Trees.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you can make next year then. Obviously, I think the lineup's coming out soon. Did they say the first few headliners and stuff are going to be out soon?
Yeah.
So when those lineups start getting announced, and I know Slam Dunk are announcing soon as well, we'll do a bit of a breakdown on those lineups, what we think, and we can start deciding what we're going to next year.
Yeah. I won't be able to do 5, but I reckon I could do 2 or 3 festivals.
Well, we'll see. I didn't think I'd be able to do 5 this summer, and then look what happened.
You managed to pull some money out your ass.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, one of them was free. But then Leeds Fest, I was just like, it's the last one of the summer. I'm not going to be able to do this again for another 9 months. What's £100?
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. I'm very fortunate to be in that situation. But it was very much a case of like, do it while we can,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's something this summer's taught me, is just go out and have experiences and make the most of things while you can.
Obviously, I wouldn't recommend being absolutely stupid money and getting yourself into masses of debt. But if you can find some money somewhere to do a thing when it's the last opportunity to do something that summer, and it's the last bank holiday until Christmas time,
Yeah,
just do it.
Can we not mention the C word? We're still in September. Can we just shelve that for a few months, please?
Are you going to censor it?
Yeah, put a bleep in there. Yeah. But yeah, so thank you for watching this far. Thank you for just listening to us ramble on a bit. If you'd like to see more of these kinds of discussions, where obviously festival season's over now, so we can't talk about that anymore. But if you'd like us to do more of these kind of things, then let us know. If you want to go and watch the festival vlogs and see what we've got up to this year, then they'll be in a playlist up here somewhere. I never know where to point on the screen. They're in a playlist somewhere, and I'll put the link to it down below as well in the description. If you want to see everything that we've got coming up for the rest of the year, then click subscribe in the corner there. We've got a lot of stuff still to come, a lot of different kinds of videos. Obviously, this year has been all about experimenting with new ideas and new things to see what works, to see what we're comfortable with making, and to see what you guys like watching as well. So hope you stick around and come with us on that journey. Thank you to every single person who watches these silly little videos that we make. And as always, we will see you in the next one.
Bye.